So now I'm starting to think about not just anatomy, but I'm starting to think about the locomotion. I'm starting to think about the physiology. So I'm going to bring out the keel and see how this affects the silhouette. I don't think it's hideous. I kind of like it. So I'm going to keep it. Of course, that's not to the scale that we had just seen in that reference, but I think it's an important element nonetheless. And I'm going to have to think about how this is going to affect the legs in the front. Right? So everything is interlocked. So anytime I have you want to, like I said, you want to add enough realism to communicate what you're trying to create, but you don't want to lock yourself into design issues. Like honestly, like if I think about putting a keel here, which means there's going to be, I mean, if you think about the relationship between the keel and the rib cage right now, as opposed to the like the human skull compared to the gorilla skull with the temporalis and the masseter. Right now, there should be a huge muscle occupying this space. So I'm going to have to shave my keel just so that this makes a little more sense. I don't want to change the width of my limbs. It's a good idea, and just so it makes a little more sense, I'm going to compromise. All right, so we are going to have, I'm going to do some sort of standard muscles that sit in this area. Namely, let's start with, let's dig in right here. I'm going to dig around right there. And I'm making room for the pectoralis. You know, and with the alpha off, you lose that edge that you get in the clay buildup brush. So I'm going to bring my focal shift down so I can get a little bit more of an edge. I don't want that square alpha. I want a nice round, well-rounded stroke. Bring out the sternum a little bit more. And let's bring that back to underneath the keel. Don't want to lose my clavicle. I'm going to tie this into being like the sternocleidomastoid. And so I'm sort of making this up, right? But I want to think of realistic connections between muscles, the way that muscles connect to specific areas. It just helps to speak that, you know, to communicate that language, right? That, yes, it's a fantasy creature, but there's the familiarity of realism. So let's look at the shoulder assembly. So I'm looking at a deltoid. This is where I'm correlating it right now to human anatomy. If I'm looking here, and I don't know if this is difficult for you guys to see, if you want me to pull this up larger, I'll pull this up larger. And actually, let me just go ahead and do that, because you know I think it's hard to see. This is one of the issues I have with image plane, by the way. I don't mind using it right now. So I'm looking here, and I'm very much going to keep the upper portion of the limb, the forelimb, lion-like, and I'll go in and I'll do more bird-like anatomy in the lower portion. So I want this power, right? So let's see. We have, I can correlate that to a deltoid, right? This is a tricep wrapping around that bone there, and that's the way I'm seeing it, right? It's shaped a little bit differently, but I can orient myself around this anatomy, even though I'm not a specialist in lion anatomy. I can definitely correlate between what I already know. So I'm going to assume that there is something like the bicep in the front, just because the locomotion of this joint is no different than the locomotion in our arm, right? This bends up and has to be pulled back, right? So the muscle structures are very similar. Nature is efficient. Nature likes to repeat systems that work. So I'm going to have to make a few adjustments here, namely back here. Let's remesh. Convergent evolution, absolutely. It's a great term, Marcos. And actually, it's not a term. Well, yeah, we all came from hydrogen, right? And the same amino acid soup bubbling on the surface, millions and millions and millions, or as Carl Sagan would say, billions and billions of years ago. All right. I don't know how you guys, if any of you guys watch old Cosmos with Carl Sagan. I used to love that show, but I used to laugh at some of this. It's the way he'd say things. Billions and billions. My wife and I joke about that all the time. I joke about Carl Sagan. She's a big astronomy nerd. So I just want to block in the shape. I'll define that better later on. But I think just getting the volume in there right now is important. So I think I can noodle on that for a while. So let's go over to the front. Scoop out this area and make something like the bicep. Come over the top here and form my deltoid. Just doing this in a very loose manner. Starting to feel like he has some power in that area. All right, back down into the chest. I have no idea how I'm going to reconcile this yet. I really do not want him to have a wider stance in the front than what he already has. So I'll just have to make it work. All right, so on the side here, I'm going to start with obliques, and I'm going to take a cue from the horse this time. Just because I feel like, I mean, if you look at, if you think about the design, I know it seemed really weird that I might be involving a horse in this, in a griffin, but I'm thinking about just how does this animal exist? What's its life cycle? What's its, how is it driven, right? So if I think about a lion's body is built for quick attacks, right? It's not built for running for long periods of time. It's very much an ambush predator, stalks its prey and then it ambushes it. So it's designed to have very strong short bursts. A horse, however, is designed for endurance. And part of that has to do with the area that I'm working on right now. So muscles assisting in breathing, right? So that those muscles all around the rib cage, muscles that exist, that are that are there to help you move your torso around. So I want to pull from this area, I guess is the short of what I'm saying. And I want to look at this area as well as far as how I want to design the back area. I want to take the latissimus, or the lats from the horse here. I want to take the obliques from here, and I want to take the serratus from here. So let's jump in here and do that. I'm not going to count my obliques. I'm not going to count my serratus. I just want to express it. Some of this is going to get covered up from the breast, these muscles I'm going to drop in here. And let me make sure I'm doing this right. Oh, I'm not. So we want this to come out like that. And I'm, like I said, I'm loosely dropping this in because I don't even know how much of this I'm going to see, but I like having it there to play off of as I go through the rest of the sculpt. Yeah, I mean, it may seem like it's an incredible waste of time to put effort into sculpting out all this muscle, but one, it sort of gives me a feeling for the animal and helps me in design just going through this process. The other thing is that, yeah, I mean, some of these elements I can play off of, just like when I was looking at the skull for the head, and I was like, oh man, I need some bony ridges in there, I need some plating. The same thing through here. Maybe there's something I can play off through here.